Hello and welcome to Sim Strategy Gaming. I'm Sim. This episode will be about the 10th scenario of Railway Empire 2, Étoile Paris. Looking at our mission objectives, we see that we are going to have to achieve an express status between Orléans, Paris and Lille, and then have a little bit of a balance and then transport 18 wagons on a single line connecting the cities of Cannes, Paris and Nancy. Focus on growing Paris, 8 different goods available there at the same time, and then achieve an express status on a line between Brest, Paris and Strasbourg. And in advance, I apologize for my very poor French. I'm trying to do the best I can. But looking at the two of these mission objectives, at least the third and the fifth, connecting Cannes, Paris, and Nancy, that's inside the Brest, Paris, Strasbourg as well. It's just a shorter version of it, so one can achieve those at the same time. But we are not going to focus on those right away, but first of all, achieve the express status between Orléans, Paris, and Lille that we are going to delete later on. So what have we done? First, I set up this zone here, referring to that as the Normandy zone. Unfortunately, I could only afford one line, so they're all going in the same direction. But there can be several trains on a one-directional line like this. One starting in Lille and one starting in Reims. And then I'm trying to build this circle here at Val de l'Or, called the Val de l'Or circle, but unfortunately money ran out, so as of now, as we're starting out, it's a half moon in Val de l'Or, but at least we have connected to all of the connection bonuses. Most important strategy tip for this game is to have this coming in as soon as possible and to start the actual trains in the very connection bonuses like this. One in Tours, one in Cannes, and then we have one in Orléans, but that is this peculiar little line that goes parallel to the circular zones. I'm not the greatest fan of this very long line, and if we were to build this star-shaped network with the Paris in the middle, it would be hard to connect all the cities in between. So I'm favoring a more even and approach that encourages more general growth all over. That will be a little bit at the expense of Paris, but still it would make for a lot of money. Since we are starting so very early in the 1840s, I have chosen to go with the professor. The professor has a serious drawback, but he also has very cheap locomotives. And locomotives are particularly expensive in the early games. So in order for us to have the absolute maximum expansion, there being no concessions here, so as long as one get money rolling in, we can just keep on connecting and connecting. There are actually a few concessions, but not in France. We have been given by the French government access to all of France here, and there are only concessions down in Spain, England, and Belgium, and then in the Rhine province. I've been doing a little bit of tricks here, as one can see that if I were to have 3 stations, and I want to have use all 3 stations, because then I can have one station for one circular zone and another belonging to another circular zone, making for a clear distinction between these two, easier setup of the warehouses, and also perhaps easier to see. And then one can have this express station in the middle. And the way to do this is to build one station and then expand the allowed zone a little bit, and then build a new station, and then delete that, and then build a new one until one reaches the point where one is most desirable to have. That makes for smoother and nicer paths. Of course, this could be achieved later in the game after when one builds the city will expand by itself, but it also will be the opportunity to build not immigration offices, but libraries at least will be accessible to us, and they will expand the allowed zone a little bit, a little by little. With locomotives, we have access to this Jenny Lynn, which is an okay train. We can achieve some express bonuses on it. But as soon as we reach the Iron Duke, all the express bonuses on the Jenny Lynn will pretty much disappear. So then the best strategy perhaps would be to aim for this Rhine, but that's going to take quite a bit of invention points. And I'm not quite sure if I'm going to be able to reach it in the time before I complete the entire mission. So it might also be easier or cleverer to just focus on picking up this other little techs. There is a hotel tech here, for example, which is very useful, building hotels in junction points on rural stations. But otherwise, we don't really have that much tech available to us at this early point in the game. And then almost a year into the game, money is starting to roll in a little bit. We've been able to complete our and expand our Normandy zone into including Brussels and Luxembourg. Bought up a concession here, connected upon these resources around. Expanded, of course, into a 2-lane track, so we have clockwise and counterclockwise traffic, and completed Val de l'Or zone here, counterclockwise and clockwise, of course, having express bonuses on a lot of these circular paths, as long as one makes sure that these stations are placed neatly, and that we have a little incline and smooth paths. Deleted this line from Orléans, Paris, Lille, because it just gets too much in the way, and our next mission objective that we had to focus on was to build this long line between Brest, Paris, and Strasbourg that also includes Cannes, Paris, and Nancy, so that those two sort of go together into this enormously long line here. You can see here how that goes. Strasbourg, Nancy, Reims, Paris, Cannes, Brest, all those cities are included. And then when these lines are so long, very good tip, I think, is to have one set of trains starting in one direction here at Brest, and then another set of trains starting at Strasbourg. Here, no. One in Brest, one starting in Strasbourg, And then in addition to this, in order to be absolutely certain that we are going to achieve the express status, have one little sneaky one that has only express goods that goes only through the cities in question, so that we are absolutely certain that it's going to achieve the express. And also make sure that that special express train, perhaps even follow it a little bit and see that it isn't blocked, because it might be able to achieve an express bonus, but not perhaps on the first run, because there are some blockages and there are something in the way. So it makes certain that it's actually achieving its mission objective. So let's see now with our next set of objectives that will come on soon here. Verlesud, the way south, I think. Now we're going to connect the cities of Dijon, Auxerre, and Paris. Here, have a line down here. Might want to build that into a zone, I think. Build a Champagne zone here, perhaps. And then achieve 5 cities with more than 50,000 citizens. That is going to come on. That is going to be easy, because all of the cities, as one can see, they are growing really, really well now. Many double arrows, and at least none of these are stagnating, except for Brest here at the very end of the line, and also Strasbourg, typical for these end of the line cities to be growing slow. And then there is the express status between Bordeaux, Limoges, and Paris. So, and that is going to have to be a line, I think, going down here into Breton, I think this region is called. And then further on, we can build that further on down to Spain. That will be an enormously long line, but it has to be a line, perhaps build a Breton circle here, and then we can also expand around south and build one in Guyane. Other than that, I have to focus all the time on growing Paris, build a university there, but now Paris being part of 2 of these circular zones make for a good growth. 92%, see what it's lacking? It's lacking vegetables, but vegetables are on its way coming in as we speak. So having really good growth there, and soon will be a university size. But one can see now how this approach of mine is forming, building these circular zones that make for good growth and good money coming in, and then trying to lay those mission requirement rails, the long rails, the tangent to the circles. Having a quick look at the flow of goods, perhaps, see if there are any needs. Wheat is very neatly placed. Lots of resources here and lots of nice cities and such, so then very soon money will be flowing in here. Little trick, one doesn't necessarily need to connect to all of these the factory only resources. There is one here, and as one can see, that livestock resource down here is serving both Rams and Lil, and Lil are getting what it needs. Yes, more than enough. Nancy, also a butchery down here, and they are not getting what they need, so we have to connect that up here somehow. Corn being put on here. I need to connect 2 corn resources. One will suffice. But then one can see with this long line system, when I use one station for both the long line and also the circular zone, then there will be this extraordinarily long hauls to drag that corn all the way up to Brest. That will be a very long and unprofitable trip for a train. Otherwise, there are corn in Val d'Or, so there will be no problems there. Lumber here is connected on, come from the long line from Strasbourg on to Rams. Meat, we saw that there were more than enough meat all over the map. Beer as well, more than enough. Sugar being connected on here to Brussels, feeding the Normandy circular zone. And then there are in Val d'Or as well. And then there are weaveries in both the circles. Now, we have the eloquent bonus, so of course we're going to be saving a lot of money. This wouldn't cost us that much, but still this tech isn't really that good, and we already, but okay, we're going to do it. 364,000. Okay, but only because I have the eloquent bonus, otherwise I would never do it. Paris now serving as a hub for milk. Always good to have them. Paris will fill up first, and then the excess will go on to both the zones. Got some vegetables over here. And those vegetables have to be spread all over the map. There aren't that many vegetable resources, so that it goes being by a freight only little line. Just think I'm using a little derwent here. Remember the derwent? Cheap and then often more than effective enough. Then it fills up Val d'Or and it goes to Paris, and if there are any excess, which there might not be so much, then it can feed only the Normandy zone. And then we have a little bit of fruit down here at Nancy. Pretty much the same story. Goes to several warehouses and trying to reach all the way to Brest and feed all of these circles. Otherwise, there aren't any more advanced goods as of yet in its early stages of the game. And then, almost 2 years into the game, we have been able to achieve our second set of mission objectives, only lacking to construct the university in Paris, but that will be done very soon. We have been able to connect the cities of Dijon, Auxerre, Paris to a circle. Our cities are absolutely booming, and an express status between Bordeaux, Limoges and Paris have been achieved on one of those long lines. We have built upon quite a bit of extra zones. I'm particularly a fan of this circular ordered zones. Have removed that long line from Strasbourg, Nancy, Reims, Paris, Cannes and Brest in favor of circular zones. One here, the Brittany zone, with Brest up here, that is now finally starting to grow a bit, connected it to Rennes and Nantes, and made one circle here, calling this the Champagne zone, with Auxerre, Dijon, and Nancy, Reims, and Paris. And we can see that these cities that are belonging to 3 different zones, they usually have double growth. Paris here with 90,000 citizens and still 80% fulfillment of demand, even though I haven't really focused on industry. That is really, really nice. And then there'll be this zone here, Alsace-Lorraine, I think it's pronounced. And then a little zone up here, the Rhine zone, including Luxembourg and Brussels. Also had the money to connect to England. that will just be one long line, but it isn't that long, and it's not that important. The most important thing was to connect to London in order to achieve our optional task that we also made for. Had this objective to achieve an express status between Bordeaux, Le Mans, and Paris. I took that a bit further, having one here, one line that goes outside the low circular zone, and one zone here, the Breton zone, including La Roche, and then goes further on down here to Bordeaux, and when I first have reached Bordeaux, I let it go further on to Bayonne, Bilbao, and also into Burgos when I first had to buy up this concession, and that is of course a very long line, and it's always a good idea to have two sets of lines on such a long track, one starting in Burgos and another one starting in Paris. So then we can go ahead and build a university in Paris. I think that will be our first university, perhaps the second. And then see what kind of mission objectives that will pop up now. Our last set, La Grande Étoile, big star. And now we're going to focus on the south part of France, the east-south, and to connect the cities of Nice, Lyon, and Paris, and also Perpignan, Clermont-Ferrand, and Paris. So then we have to now Paris being part of 3 zones in order to make it grow as quickly as possible. But there will be opportunities to lay tracks here. You'll have 2 tracks there, and just have to make these long lines going down Montpellier, Perpignan, and Clermont, and then also here having 2 ones going from Paris to Orléans, and then split here, one to Clermont-Ferrand and one to Lyon, and then down to Nice. And then that will just have to be these lines, not so easy to build any proper circles there, but might add an extra line down here, a southern line, in order to connect these cities along the south coast of France. Have some ideas of how to build Guillaume zone here, including Bordeaux and Le Mans, and perhaps do something about this extraordinarily long line now that we have achieved the express status that we were required to have. Might be time to look at the flow of goods again. See that we having more than enough wheat all over, so usually wheat is just brought on to the main lines and then serving the circles that they belong to, not being exported from circle to circle. The Champagne zone was so big and oval that had to be a little extra line connecting here between Reims and Auxerre. One thing to point out that at first I built this station very close to the riverbank, but if one does that, one can end up having enormous inclines, as one sort of had to go over the river. So on this map in particular, do not build stations too close to the riverbanks. Build them a bit far away, because this beach area here should not be too close to a station. Say with corn. Now most, as I say, with Lille and such, they have their own. All the butcheries and all the weaveries are connected to factory-only resources that are close to them. So no more warehouses or tricks there, because that would just fill up the rail lines. But say with the corn, the English, they serve them themselves, a little bit of extra corn to Lille. Just having this separate systems here, no need to connect England further on just by having two stations at Lille. That would more than suffice. Corn is also one of those things that are kept local, kept on to the zones that they belong to. A little bit here at Nantes, they have a warehouse there that goes into Brest, and also into this Poitou zone down here with La Roche and Le Mans. And then there are on this long, say we could call it the Spanish line, perhaps. That would be a nice name. We'll have to come up with a little bit of names. Lumber, a little bit more difficult, but at least here between Nancy and Strasbourg, then there is a warehouse here that serves both one in Luxembourg and one in Nancy, that serves the Rhine zone and the Champagne zone. And then one here at Val de l'Or that serves all the way into Brittany. And also further on down, see here there is a conflict. That is one of those things that are due to these enormously long lines, and it's hard to sort of separate them from each other. But it doesn't matter so much as of now. I'm going to do some changes there, and still there aren't, I think, any warning triangles here as of yet. But this will become a problem later on. Meat, still nice and evenly distributed. Some have to be transported from Lille and Reims onto Cologne, and England serving themselves. Of course, the English has a double set of breweries, making sure they get all the ale that they can dream of, and otherwise being neatly placed all over the map. So it's kind of an easy setup in many ways, as long as one avoids these long line problems. Sugar, here the long line actually serves pretty well, making sure there are two sugar resources on the Spanish line that goes all the way up and down. The sugar here at Brittany, see where that goes. Well, serving Brittany only because Val de l'Or has sugar of its own up here. And then there is one at Champagne that serves Champagne, and see, one in the Rhine that also serves Alsace-Lorraine, like this. Weaveries, also pretty neatly. This map is a little complicated and a little large, but it is made easy so that the resources are pretty evenly distributed. It's a nice place to sort of train into making these circular approaches, as long as one can sort of look away from the mission objectives and make the mission objectives even though one builds zones, and then it's easy to set up the zones afterwards. Milk here at Alsace-Lorraine, going into the Rhine zone as well. And then we have one here in Paris that is also now connecting. No, it's not connecting to this. So see here, there's milk there, but there is no warehouse here because this one is the one that connects to the long line, and then that would make for a confusion since there are also milk down south here at Le Mans that goes on to the long line. So then this milk resource in Paris, it goes on to the Normandy zone and then bounces over and into the Champagne circle. And then this milk down here at Le Mans, it also serves Brittany. And there is also extra milk here at Bilbao. This is a conflict. And so again, it's due to this long line system. But no, actually, I think this will do fine because both of these there aren't any demand at the end of this freight only line, and then there is there will be two milk resources on one system, and they will not interflict, and they can both serve the long line and also go on to Brest, the long line being the Spanish line. Vegetables are being exported from Brittany onto Val de l'Or, and then we have one in Bouton here. See where that is going. It should not, yes, and that have to serve only this Bouton zone, because then there cannot be a warehouse here with vegetables, because there are vegetables on this warehouse and that warehouse, and if I set up a vegetable here as well, that would make for an awful mess. You can have a quick look at how not to do it, or where to do it like this. Now everything is going back and forth between these two. You can see that the Bouton vegetables are serving the same cities as the vegetable resource in Brittany. So we have to turn that off later. And then there are one here at Dion that serves both Champagne and Alas Lorraine. But then there is also one up in Rhine that goes into Luxembourg. Then it's important not to have, there's the same problem that we had with the Brittany. So this one, it serves Rhine and then goes up to Brussels and serves Normandy and also the British. They don't have any vegetables at around, so they need to have some fruit. Made for a nice little cross here at Val de l'Or, and that serves Val de l'Or, and particularly serves Paris. Also coal for Paris. I'm trying to make for this optional objective to have 19 different goods available in Paris at the same time, but that turned out to be pretty hard. There are you can see here, all in all, in this very early game, if one excludes this, there would be 6 times 4 minus 1, 23 different goods available, and many of these are factory-only resources. Paris will never demand wool or livestock, so that means that there are 21 goods, and then to have all but 2 goods available at the same time in Paris, that is going to take quite a bit of tricks, and I didn't do that many tricks. I rather focused on just completing the map very easily, having a large growth, and Some optional tasks they can be left for others to complete if one really likes. I like building rails more than I like upgrading industries. And then there is this fruit down here at Champagne. Need that to make their champagne. And this one is being distributed also to Alsace-Lorraine, and then further on to Cologne, and into Normandy, and then further on into Britain. Let's see if there are any more. Yes, one here at Peton that is being brought on to the Spanish line and also into Brittany. And then for these other factory resources, some factories are popping up now, and one can go and check and see if they're running, but still they're producing much less than the demand. So no need to try to bring that from city to from zone to zone. Rather try to focus on limiting where they are going. Say here at Rams, for example, like I can have turned off these trains here, and then made sure that a little bit more is going in the direction of Paris. This is one way, a simple way of at least trying without manual setup, but at least trying to avoid that the things are going away from Paris. And now more of it is going into Paris, and we can do the same here at the Tours. Should perhaps have done that and see that if I'm able to make that optional task, but it is difficult. Another way that might have succeeded would be to turn them all off, see that none of the regular transports were picking up these more advanced goods, and then wait until the export warehouses are full, and then send special trains into Paris at the same time in order to maximize this. Having a lot of research point now, but if I am to pick this Iron Duke, and then I cannot reach the Rhine just yet, all of my express bonuses will disappear, and then I'd rather not do that, and I'd rather wait a bit. See that we have the same with cheese, salt. See, where are the salt? Here up at Cannes, being distributed much over the entire map like this. So I'm serving the westernmost part of France. And then there is one here at Alsace-Lorraine that serves the eastern part, and also Brittany, Britain, and so on. Having expanded many of our systems now into 4-lane systems with one set of Jenny-Lins, just using the Jenny-Lin for all purposes, one set of Jenny-Lin with dedicated express goods, and also these special wagons. And then parallel to it, on the outer parts, one set of Jenny-Lins that are picking up the mixed goods. So, like that. So then, just a couple of months later, with the money that we have rolling in, expansion comes really easy. Less than 2 years of gameplay. Not so much have happened here up north since September. Built on this little cross inside of Alsace-Lorraine to alleviate some of the pressure. One can see that the trains are starting to get quite busy, but still the cities are growing up here. We took the long Spanish line. That was way too long for my taste. I have this Breton zone, and then rather connected the Spanish line onto Rocher here, and down onto Bayonne and Burgos. And then we made for this Guyenne zone here in the south, our last circular zone with a nice cross in the middle. Really nice setup. Only could afford 2 lines, so no dedicated express trains here. No particular need for it either. Our mission objectives, they were to have a train run back and forth from Bayonne to Paris in 50 days. That was achieved immediately because we already had built this extension on the express line between Bordeaux, Le Mans and Paris. And then we had to connect the cities of Nice, Lyon and Paris, and Perpignan, Clermont and Paris, which we did in this way. One here, all the way to the east border of France, from Nice, up here, Lyon, and then further straight up onto Orléans, and then to Paris, going parallel to this Champagne, Val zone, Champagne being over here to the east, and then another line from Perpignan, Montpellier, up to Clermont-Ferrand, and then further on the same, Orléans and Paris. Of course, important to start trains now here in both directions, and achieve the necessary either transported goods or express status on these, but these are entirely straight lines, so it's easy to achieve an express status, but nevertheless it's good to have one of those special trains that brings only express goods all the way, and actually this goes all the way further on to Brest in order to achieve that extra optional task. It's going to take a little bit of time. It takes more than 2 months in order to just go back and forth. I built this immediately in September, but still it takes so long for that train to go back and forth that it's going to take a little bit of time for it to achieve 86 days. That is more than 2 months of travel. It's I would say that is too long. That is just for prestige that I built this. And then also there would be a southern line here, because this star shape would only connect things towards Paris, but what to do in between them? Built one line here from Lyon to Clermont, and then also this long line from Nice, Marseille, Montpellier, and on to Perpignan. And then that connects, of course, to this Guyenne zone down here. And now, if we will just build our 4th university, see that we have several opportunities to build this. Ta-da! And then we have completed the scenario. And let's see how we did. Not too bad. Still optional tasks yet to complete. We will not be able to complete this 19 available goods at Paris. I haven't focused enough on that. That would take quite some time. But with the express line from Brest to Nice, as soon as that comes in, we will have a little bit more of a high score. See how we did. 44th place. This is not so bad, I think. So, but one can do this even better than I. One can focus more on tricks in order to get to Paris. See that it's starting to lack things like lumber, and not too much vegetables coming in, and there are all these special goods that one could more focus on to Paris. Having I saw here also that I've been saving and saving to have this Rhine, and now I almost have enough. I need 900 invention points in order to reach the Rhine, but with the money kept coming in so fast, and we were sort of lagging behind with invention points, so I never got to able to reach the Rhine, because this setup with these circular zones are much more profitable, even though they sometimes contradict to the mission objectives. We make so much money that we achieve all the mission objectives before we were able to achieve the Rhine. So actually those invention points might have been better spent on just picking up a little bit of extra bonuses here and there. But then, so last, I promised to explain all the warehouses, so have a look at those. See that it is a bit difficult with these long lines, but sometimes it's beneficial to put a warehouse up here and then bring it on. The 3 stations there. One station that picks up the corn resource, and then one station that belongs to this Guyenne zone, and one that belongs both to the long line down here that I seem to have that goes the southern French line, and then also to this mission required the Central Express line, and then to have wheat here so that wheat can come up. To have this enormously long haul of wheat here from Paris, that might actually be so that Paris Paris is not getting enough wheat now, it seems. It's a lot of wheat coming in, but then if one does it like this, sometimes the Paris will wait for wheat from this depot way down south, where it would have been much easier for it to just pick up the wheat that is immediately next to it. But it won't do that because it's waiting for that enormously long line. So that's one of the reasons for build the more compact little circles. Otherwise, wheat is neatly distributed down south here, right in between Clermont and Lyon, picking up that wheat. Corn here from Montpellier serves a large part of the southern regions, but there are also more corn down here at the Spanish line, like this, will serve parts there. Otherwise, there are the corn up here, so that. And then with lumber, lots of lumber here at the Guyenne zone. I must pardon for my poor French. I tried to Google these names and try to learn how to pronounce them and such, but it's not within me to be able. So one can leave some comments and try to correct me, but I'm doing my best. See here, lumber is brought on. Not too long hauls, luckily. Butcheries. There are butcheries down south, evenly spread out all over the map. Meat is flowing in nicely from all directions. Beer as well. Little lack of beer here down in Spain. So they get most of their beer from La Roche, which isn't producing enough as of now, so that maybe should aren't so much wheat down in Spain either. So that is a little bit of a problem down there. The Spanish cities aren't really growing as fast as I would like them to. Sugar, so sugar in Guyane, and sugar nicely placed over here and on these lines, so that everybody is getting enough sugar. Weaveries are also more or less nicely distributed. And this is the Spanish line, and the central southern Guyane zone, and then also one in Nis that is serving both the southern parts and also these long lines all the way up to Brest. Imagine if Brest now are waiting for cloth to come from Nis. That takes more than a month, so that is a little too long for my taste. Milk here, serving these parts. Is there more milk down south? Yes, there is one here again, and then also on the Spanish line. So that is one for each zone. Zone can be either a circle, my favorite, or it can be a cross, which is also good, or it can just be a long line. But then it would be an independent zone and would need to have either access to the goods themselves, or they would have to have them imported from somewhere else where there are excess to be exported. You can see that lots of vegetables here, so that with a warehouse here and at Montpellier, that takes care of most of the southern parts, and then there are one at Bilbao as well, and also with fruit in Toulouse, brought on through several warehouses actually. So are there any fruit down in Spain that would be imported from Bouton, the circle, and through the warehouse in La Roche. And then I haven't not focused very much on factories, so there are too little of these factory resources, and it should have been pointed more in the direction of Paris in the hope for achieving that last and very difficult mission objective. At least with this setup, if one were to make a real star where everything just went straight into Paris, it would be much easier to make sure that Paris got 19 goods available at the same time. But then one would not make that much money. Or if somebody have an idea to do both at the same time, of course, that would be super nice if somebody left a comment, and if I were able to find some like-minded people that had an adult interest in difficult childish games. That is sort of sums up me as a character. I really dig on this game because it has so many complex things, and even the little bugs here and there and such, that they intrigue me, and I find it very interesting to be figuring out how to do this. You can see here that with the salt there are becoming a little bit of a confusion. I think this salt is behaving nicely as it did, but say here, what did happen to this salt? Now that we had this extra long, now I'm trying. I cut off salt delivery to other places than into Paris, in order to make some futile attempts to grow, to make 19 different goods available at the same time in Paris. Way too little here. Try to build a furniture factory to go into Paris, but then I should have cut off access to the other zones. Made sure that it only went into Paris. Same with this clay ceramics factory, but then clay had to come all the way from Brittany and being transported here, so it was kind of a long stretch. Paper down here as well, also one of my futile attempts to bring it on to Paris, and Paris producing its own chemicals. Well, I think that pretty much sums it all up. One can feel free to like and subscribe. That would be very nice. And other than that, enjoy the game and goodbye. And I hope to see you next time around.